Hey, what's up, viewers? Welcome back once again to another episode of Magic Land's Big Dark Room. On this episode, we welcome Billy Brown, aka Hot Pot. We sit down and talk with him about his chart-stomping track, Tequila. It's been heating up the Beatport charts. All that and more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the interview. Mr. Hot Pot, thank you so much for joining us here on Big Dark Room.
No problem.
How's things going?
Feeling more confident and motivated than ever.
You got a new single that's out called Tequila, and that is just heating up the Beatport charts right now.
Yeah, Tequila Time. It's on my buddy Cheechmo's debut EP with Envy Records, which I'm the label manager for. My last EP I did on Envy Records, it's called Bacon and Honey EP. And there's this one track called Dip My Chip that's, gotta go with the food themes always. Dip My Chip, Cheechmo was just getting into production at that point.
Yeah.
And he had this goofy vocal that was like, taco salad, bacon dip, girl, will you let me dip my chip? And he had just started producing, so he didn't know how to implement it for his own productions. And I was like, well, I'm doing an EP, why don't you send me the vocal and I'll write a beat for it and we'll go through it together. We did that, and that EP hit #1 in all genre releases and tech house releases.
Wow.
And so that was a lot of excitement then. From there, he actually had sent me the Tequila Time vocal shortly after that release came out. So this is 2018. And I was in a transitional phase of between apartments, and I moved in with my grandmother temporarily for 3 months before I could find, because I'm looking for apartments, and it was October, which is not prime season in Boston. They had this little bootleg setup where it was like a TV dinner table next to a bed in the bedroom I was in, and have my laptop and my audio interface and a little tiny 12-inch MIDI keyboard. So I was cranking out jams there. I mean, you just got to work with what you have at the time.
Yeah.
All of my headphones, and I wrote a version of Tequila Time with them, and it was good, but I knew that the mix wasn't there, and I just kept revisiting it I kid you not, every 2-3 months. It's okay, we need to get this Tequila Time track going again. And I'd open up Ableton. I'm like, all right, save it as a new project, write new bass lines, get different elements involved. And this goes on for basically 3 years, where every
Wow. Three years on one track, basically.
Yeah, but I'm working actively on other tracks.
Right.
It's just every now and then my ADHD brain is oh, you forgot something on your list there. Got to finish this Tequila Time track. So it wasn't until November of 2021, and he was like, hey man, I would really like it if there was a collaboration between us on my EP, because his first big release was on the Bacon and Honey EP with Dip My Chip. And I think we were both just flying high a little bit, because we knew one of my good friends, Cosmalia. She's on Mousetrap and Insomniac, and she's done a tune on Envy Records before, and she played Dip My Chip at EDC Vegas this year.
Oh wow.
But yeah, 3 years later, she's still rinsing Dip My Chip. And so we saw video clips of that, and we were all right, the music we make together it's something special. So he wanted it to go on his EP. So then I was overdrive. I'm all right, we gotta get this Tequila Time track done. And I went through all 12 project files, and there's my splice said there's something 73 different versions between those together.
Isn't it always you look back on your work, and it's just so funny how you take that break and your ears are kind of calmed down. Everything's all pretty. You have a memory of what it sounded like, and then you go back in. And you're like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah.
What am I thinking
here? There are some crazy versions of Tequila Time on there. Like there's bass, like real heavy night bass versions. There's like minimal, like 6 a.m. in Tulum versions. Like, and I just went through all of them and I took the best elements of each one and wrote a new bass line, grabbing like just like random drum hits that I had in different versions and scoop it all together with a new kick drum and new bass line. And
nice.
That's how you get it.
That's how you get it. And so how did the Chichmo, how did your collaboration started with him? I mean, it started with the dip song, but like, how did you guys meet? I mean, was it through the record label?
So yeah, Corey owns Envy Records and he has the Envy Lounge down in Charlotte, North Carolina. So the Envy Lounge, I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's DJ Mag actually came and did an interview on it because it's called the #1 micro club in America. And he's got a full void sound system.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Daniel, did you hear that? A void sound system, a full void sound. Okay, Daniel and I are obsessed with the void sound system.
Oh yeah. So he's got a full void system. You know, 4 CJ 3000s. It's a really unique place. You know, it's like 125 cap, but it's all private events, and so. You know, down in Charlotte, whenever there's a show happening, whether it's like big bass artists or big house artists, you can lure these big artists back to this micro club and they'll come play a private set for everyone for the after party. It's no different than like the house parties that, you know, we've attended after a show here. It's just taken to that, you know, 11 out of 10.
Yeah.
I started working with Corey. I was doing A&R for the label, and I was the first EP release for them when they started the label. And Chichmo was his roommate and lived at the house that the Envy Lounge is in. So I had met him, and he's just got this like really good sultry voice that you just like pitch it down just a little bit, put some nice processing on it, and yeah, it just sounds great.
That's really cool, man. Wow.
Yeah.
And the song that you guys first worked on was "Dip My Chip."
Yep.
And that was played at
EDC Vegas.
At Easy Vegas. Okay. That was the first time you ever really kind of had it in that setting before like that?
When I played Holy Ship 13, my buddy Steve Darko came up and dropped a track, like one of our collaboration tracks during my set. The next night he was playing the main outdoor stage and he told me, he was like, do you want to drop a track since you let me drop one in your set last night? I played Dip My Chip to that audience and I mean, it went off. I mean, Steve's looking at the CDJ and he's like, what track is this? I'm like, man, I sent you this before.
That's awesome.
So, but it's you know, it's a different type of appreciation when, you know, another big caliber artist plays it when you're not even there.
Right. Especially at a big festival, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even imagine that. I mean, you know, speaking of festivals too, it's like you went to Cancun recently for your honeymoon.
Yeah, for my honeymoon. You
went to EZoo, Electric Zoo, right?
Yeah, so that was actually an accident. We weren't supposed to go there.
Oh, really?
We booked this trip to Cancun right before COVID pandemic world started. Mm-hmm. Me and my now wife, Leah, we were like, all right, we're just going to go to Cancun, go relax. And then things get postponed and then all the borders shut down, not going to Cancun. And in that time, we got engaged shortly after, and we're planning a wedding. And we're like, oh, well, still haven't used that credit to that resort in Cancun. Like, so we decided to do it for our honeymoon. But we were both adamant on, because pretty much whenever we travel, either I'm playing a show or we're going to a festival. But we were like, all right, we're going to be adults for our honeymoon. We're just going to Cancun, all-inclusive resort. We'll get your pictures by the infinity pool you want, you know, look like some real Instagrammers and just normal people. Maybe like watch a show at the resort.
Oh, that sounds so fucking boring.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we'll go to one of those resort diners. Who knows? And then, you know, it gets time. We're going to Mexico, and her favorite artist is Cascade, and Cascade's playing EZoo Cancun. First, we go from, no, we're not doing any festival, anything for our honeymoon. Then we're like, all right, well, maybe just Cascade, right? Like just a closing Cascade set. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll sneak that in there. And turns out you can't. It's a resort festival, so you have to be buying a ticket to the resort and staying there.
Wow.
And so you can't go to it if you just happen to be in Cancun or you just like live in Cancun. A good friend of mine, Charles Meyer, who is heavily involved with like Electric Zoo. He's from New York. Check him out, definitely. Plays dope tech house. I saw he was on the flyer, and all within like 10 minutes of my brain conjuring up, how do we do this? I just hit up Charles and I was like, hey, Charles, how you doing? Because you don't really want to be that guy that's like, hey, can I get a list spot? But desperate times call for desperate measures. So I was like,
and it's your honeymoon, so
yeah. And what better chance for it to work? And Charles immediately messaged me back. He's like, send me your full legal names. He's like, I'll send it. You put you on my list. We actually laughed about it when I was down there because he was like, I'm so glad you hit me up. They asked me for a list, but I don't know anyone that's just going to Cancun. So I kind of felt like I didn't have any friends for a moment. But then
that's great.
And then you hit me up, and he's like, awesome.
That's great. That certainly probably made his night too, as well.
We went to Izu Cancun for 2 days, and like the first day we went, we saw Diplo. Like we were just going to catch a Diplo set. It was supposed to be outside. Of course, it starts raining when we get there. They're on like level 10 evacuation warning to get everyone inside a building and set up sound again. And they're like, oh, all the stage design we did out at this crazy pool area, like now we got to put it indoors and make it just as cool somehow. So I watched a Diplo set there, which was, I mean, I went in there being like, all right, I'm going to see a Diplo set. And I left there and I was like, well, we got to go see the Diplo set tonight, like later on. So we ended up going, they had another event at a club afterwards. I can't remember the name, but it's like the #1 like mega club in Central America. And crazy production. Looks like a spaceship shooting down lights from the top of the arena.
That is amazing.
And so we went there. We were going there anyways to see Charles Meyer open up the night. Diplo wasn't even supposed to be playing that night, but because they had moved everyone indoors and it was all this chaos, and then they hit a capacity limit for indoors, and the people were like, we want Diplo. We paid to come see Diplo. Diplo's like, all right, I got to play a set now at the Mega Club tonight. So I got to see another Diplo set.
Wow.
And and then by the end of that Diplo set, we were just fried, and we were like, all right.
Well, did you end up seeing Cascade at all?
Yeah, so we saw Cascade like 2 days later.
Okay.
Although, same exact scenario. It's Cascade, mega production outside at the pool stage. And we get there, and it starts raining as soon as we show up again. So, again, move everything back indoors, all this chaos. But, we watched the Cascade set. It was awesome. Got to watch my wife just, like, sit there, like...
gaga.
It's how she looks at me normally, but not when Cascade's in the room.
And I think too that when you go to an event like that, I think for me, I think it's kind of inspiring to see that sort of thing.
100%.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, is that a very big inspiration for you when you see people playing in stages like that? Do you start those ideas start turning in your head slowly afterwards? Watching that.
I mean, I live in my iPhone notes section. Like I have a whole folder called music, and like it's anything from weird vocal ideas I get, or like inspirational tracks I hear, or just like a vocal I hear in the club that Shazam won't pick up, and I'm like, I gotta go search the internet, find this one later. It really just fired me up to go back home and produce more music.
Right.
And actually, Tequila Time came out of that. Tequila Time was made right after my honeymoon. So, version 73, but...
Right, okay, yeah. You started getting those inklings of what you can do with the Tequila Time.
Yeah.
I mean, being in Cancun, I can see where that inspiration is being drawn from.
The tequila was flowing in Cancun for sure. You gotta keep with the vibe. I actually don't think I drank any tequila while making Tequila Time, but since it's come out, it's been my go-to spirit of choice.
It's not a bad spirit to choose from, honestly. Got that nice little spice. You don't actively take the worm, though, do you? Are you that person?
No worm. Okay. I like worm-free. You know?
Yeah, okay, worm-free tequila is
Protect
good.
the worms.
Yeah, that's always...
Yeah. We have a bearded dragon, and I feed him worms on a daily basis.
Okay, so you have a...
And sometimes I post videos of Morty, the bearded dragon. Shout out Morty. You can follow him on Instagram.
Does he have his own Instagram page?
Oh yeah, all of our pets have Instagrams.
That's awesome.
He's missing fingers Morty because he's missing a couple fingers.
Okay.
And then you got Evie, the mini Aussie. That's our Australian Shepherd. So
I see the Australian Shepherd. You post that a lot.
Oh yeah,
adorable dog.
Yeah, he kills it in the studio too. He's always there in the odd hours I'm staying awake in the studio.
Nice. So much energy. Those dogs, man, they're...
he's a full-time job.
Yeah.
It takes a village to raise a dog. Literally for my birthday set and like chewed up the cable when he was just a puppy and killed my internet, knocked me right out of Twitch immediately. But, with some positive reinforcement training, he doesn't chew cables anymore. So
No, that's good. It's like spray bottle, a little bit of that.
Yeah, well, actually, Leah does like a distraction process. So it's like I always thought you could just be like, no, bad dog. And it turns out that doesn't work. He's like, I'm bad dog. He's like, oh, wait till I get the next cable.
Yeah, wait till you leave.
But no, in case there's any like people with dogs, you're looking how to train them. Positive reinforcement, choose the cable. You're like, no, puppy. And then you give him one of his toys and you're like, this is your toy. That's a $40 cable. Don't chew that.
It's a little dog whispering right there.
Yeah,
huh?
Exactly.
That's good.
Got to get Caesar Milan in the studio. Just thinking of the South Park episode. Like, I need Caesar Milan in the studio when like I'm like getting a little too crazy with my like analog synths, and he's just like, no. He's like, calm down.
You could do a remix.
Yeah, enough is enough.
Just have a remix of all his vocalizations of like the ways that he's disciplining the dogs.
Yeah. I mean, he'd probably just be a good like team member too, good little coach member for the team.
Sure. Absolutely. So one of the things I wanted to mention, that's a great part of the conversation. I love that. Like little deviation right there, but that's all good. It's all part of the process that makes you.
Oh yeah. The stories per hour will be high. That's the SPH as we call it.
SPH?
Yeah, stories per hour.
No, I like that.
How many stories per hour? Like, I've already mentioned 3 times I have ADHD, but like, you ever see one of those graphs where it's like, all right, starts telling a story.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
side story, but the side story got distracted. Why was I telling this? Oh, yeah, main story, second plot line, 45th cast member of the stories. All right, wait, why? What was the whole point of the original? Oh, okay, there we are.
Yeah, and now we came to conclusion.
Storytelling is like the oldest art since mankind invented language. So, but that's why we have you here to keep us on track. You got your nice little like go-to list. I'm just raw dogging it over here, just like trying to see what I can figure out.
But there's a method to the madness, man, because essentially what I'm going to ask you, because how stories not only are just important in terms of a narrative structure and talking about like like at a movie or television, but also in making music.
Yeah.
Songs all have a narrative structure, and it's all very typical. Some are different deviations of those.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, if you listen to my music, I always have a thematic vibe going on.
Yeah.
The theme is evident. Like Dip My Chip, there's like little chip sounds in the background and crunching sounds, and certain people listen for those elements. It's usually non-producers, and they're like, oh wow, those chip samples crunching really added to the chip theme of the song.
Yeah.
A lot of producers will put like a vinyl sample in the background to give it that like hiss that the vinyl would make if it was being played on an actual player. So you usually put a really low volume vinyl sample behind it, really adds some like crunchy high ends to fill it up the space. I had a song Box of Wine and Bacon, and I was like, well, instead of a vinyl sample behind it, I'm gonna go on YouTube and I'm gonna rip a 10-minute long video of someone cooking bacon, and I'm going to use all the little bacon crackles, and I'm going to use that as my vinyl hiss in the background. So
where did the whole concept of the idea of hot pot come from?
my first Holy Ship was the second one they ever did. I went on there like being all into like dubstep and trap, and blew my mind. I thought that all house music sounded like Deadmau5. And I was like, wow, this is some weird stuff going on here. And I literally just like put my hands up in the air and walked off the ship, and I was like, I am a house DJ now. I was like, I need to learn everything about this culture. The next song I put out is like a weird breakbeat thing before I even can appreciate good breaks. It was really bad. I don't even think it's on Beatport anymore, thank God. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go by Billy Brown, which is my name. And of course, there's another Billy Brown, and he's like 50 years old, and he did house music in the UK forever, and so it just gets added under his discography. And I was like, all right, well, that's not the name. It's like a couple months after that, I'm like just racking my brain, like, what do I call myself? And I went to Camp Coldbrook, which is a festival here in Mass that happens, and they had a Dirty Bird barbecue kind of thing going on where it was Worthy and Christian Martin and Mark Starr. And I left the festival and the next day, and a friend of mine was like, oh, we should go get Hot Pot. And I'm like, what the hell is Hot Pot? And went to Shabu Zen in Alston and had Hot Pot for the first time, and it changed my whole life. Like, I was like, this is what my taste buds have been waiting for. So even for the next couple months, I'm like, man, what do I call myself? And my buddy Hassan was like, dude, just call yourself Hot Pot, because you won't shut up about it. And which is true. After I ate Hot Pot, I hit up every friend of mine, and I was like, we need to go get Hot Pot. If you haven't had this stuff, you need to try it. And my buddy Hassan's like, just call yourself Hot Pot. He's like, think about it. You can have all these different flavored broth mixes and whatnot. And I was like, wow, that's pretty smart. Simple name. It rhymes. It's only 6 letters, and of total in the words, and of those, it's only 4 letters. So boom.
Yeah. Why not? That's like a no-brainer right there.
Yeah, good marketing. And yeah, that's how Hot Pot was born.
That's a really good organic way of having it happen. Like, coming up with a name for anything is never generally what people... I feel like a lot of... You hear these stories.
It's definitely not something you're excited about.
No, and it always seems to come out of nowhere. For example, Darude, for his song Sandstorm. You would think it would be some sort of crazy, like, pretty cool, compelling story of how he kind of got the name and stuff. Nope. It was the name of the preset he used for the synth.
Skrillex's name is from his first AOL username.
See, that I didn't know. That's crazy.
Fun facts. But yeah, and you know, now that I'm thinking about it more, the Hot Pot name's even more fitting for me because it's how I wouldn't shut up about it. And it's just like, I'm like, oh, everyone, you gotta check out Hot Pot. It's like, that's how I want people to feel about my sets. Like, you go to one of those sets, and you're like, yo, have you guys heard about Hot Pot? Not the food. Now everyone knows the food because Hot Pot's like the most popping off thing, food wise. But now we gotta get people into the house music, Hot Pot.
And speaking of getting into the house music, when you first started getting into house music, who were the inspirations for you when you first started?
Definitely Dirty Bird. I mean, I saw I didn't even know who Claude Von Stroke was before that Holy Ship. And then, you know, I saw Claude Von Stroke and Justin Martin and J Flip and Eats Everything, Artelin, and their flavor of sound just blew my mind.
They're very different. Their stuff kind of like harkens back to a little bit more minimal, stripped down sometimes. You sort of have this
but they definitely add like a weird quirky vibe to it.
Yeah, they make it their own for sure.
They're like huge into like the weird analog sounds, which just really like give me like a Moog growl coming, and I'll just I mean, you're into external synths and stuff. You have a Moog Sub 37 and a Polybrute. Yep, I got the Sub 37, the Polybrute. I got an analog Rhythm MK2 drum machine. I got this Behringer 808 that was fun for like a week, but has now taken the back burner. I got a Bass Station 2, that was the problem that got me into all this. You bought a Bass Station 2 for like $300, and I'm like, oh wow, analog gear is really cool. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, now I need a Moog, and now I need this, and now I need this. And every piece of gear I buy, I'm like, this is the last piece of gear I'm buying. And then my brain's like, no, oh wow, have you seen this one? Wow, maybe get that one.
It's just like DJing or doing anything that you love, and you get in sort of this sort of obsessive
and that's the type
moment.
That's the type of ADHD I have, is where like I have the squirrel brain, but like when I'm focused on something, like it's obsessive. But you know, it's a good, like, as long as it's a positive habit, like being obsessive over it isn't a bad thing.
Right. I mean, the money you spend on some of these things, some of these upward synths and things like that aren't cheap.
That's fine. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
I mean, you know, you got to just get what you need, feel like you need at the time. Your studio will figure itself out. Like there's pieces of gear that I use in every song, and there's pieces of gear that like I pull out now and then. And then there's pieces of gear that live in the closet, and I tell myself that someday I'm going to post them on Reverb and sell them. But then I'm like, but it's mine and I bought it and I don't really want to do that.
Exactly. Because you never know. There's that one day where you just kind of cleaning out the closet and just you come upon this one piece of gear and you're like, I haven't played this for very long, and you plug it in, start messing about. You're like, holy crap, what the hell have I been doing?
Oh yeah, totally. Currently I live in a 2-bedroom condo, and 1 bedroom is a full music studio now. Thank you. That's the only good thing that ever happened in COVID is nobody visited us anymore. And so I convinced my wife that I'm throwing out the bed and I'm making it into an actual studio. I'm pulling the desk 14 inches from the wall. I'm putting foam everywhere like it's an insane asylum. And, you know, I'm doing some like calculations to figure out where the foam hits and where the sound is, like the first hits are, and bouncing off the reflective points. But like I'm still limited in space, so you know eventually I'll have a bigger studio, and all the the couple pieces in the closet will just like be fully functional all the time on a rack, against the wall.
Yeah.
But for the meantime, I'm just trying to crank out as many songs as I can while I'm feeling fired up.
Yeah, that's the way to go, man. I mean, honestly, you do what you can with what you have.
Yep.
And sometimes the limitations can breed a lot of creativity.
Oh, definitely. And you don't need external hardware at all. I mean, some of these tunes I'm writing currently, I won't even sometimes I don't even turn on a synth. Sometimes I can do everything with just VSTs in the box.
One of the things I wanted to ask too is is there a Mount Rushmore of synthesizer or set of synths that you want to get?
The only thing that's on my brain right now that is definitely going to be my next purchase is an Electron Heat.
Okay.
Which is basically like an analog saturator and distortion unit. And I know a lot of artists they'll write their drums and have them printed in Ableton, and then they'll feed that out of Ableton into the Electron Heat and then record that again back into Ableton. The analog always has like its own distinct warmth to it. So, I mean, you can get the same sound inside the box, but it's a lot easier when it's analog. I think that's the biggest benefit to it.
And how often do you use a lot of especially those two, like the Moog and the Polybrute in your music?
I use the Polybrute in pretty much every track. I mean, I've been since Tequila Time's climbing the charts. I mean, like right now it's sitting at number 2 in bass house singles, number 47 singles overall, all genres. And so I've been writing nonstop for like 7 days now. I cranked out 6 new tunes in the last 7 days.
Wow, dude.
That are just basically like the mix downs as close as I can get before I then go to my engineer, who's shout out Eric Mitchell, who's like the New England's heaven for all aspiring producers here, and he's been doing the Lord's work forever. Maybe this is something we can touch on, because I feel like a lot of producers or a lot of listeners have this stigma where they think that an artist should be doing everything by themselves. It has to be their full mix down, and that's not how it used to be whatsoever. We just live in weird times now where technology is good enough that you can do that. Previously artists would go in and record something and he wasn't even allowed in the mixing engineer's booth, and they had a team of people. One guy only did compression, one guy only did saturation. Now we're living in this crazy world where you have the technology all in one MacBook Pro, and people think you're supposed to do all of it. Like that's not how you learn and get better. You learn and get better by surrounding yourself with people that are better than you, and it creates like I like to call it healthy competition, you know, by raining on someone else's parade I guess the real phrase is by blowing out someone's candle, your candle's not going to shine any brighter. You got to surround yourself with people that are better with you. And like, then in your network, you have to teach the people the things that you learn so that way they can become as good as you. So then you can push each other to be more creative and even better. That's how you do it. When I finish a tune, my preferred method is to go to Eric Mitchell's house and go in his studio, and he opens up my Ableton project, and he'll go in and he'll do like the finesse last 5% mixdown work, and I'll sit there with a notebook and make all these crazy notes and diagrams as I have him explain to me how like a tube amp works and stuff.
Yeah.
And don't think that you need to be doing everything on your own. Do whatever it takes to get to that polished sound that you need.
Yeah, exactly. And working together with somebody is really good because there are some things that you might miss that,
oh yeah,
you know, they definitely can pick up.
100%.
You know, I don't know how some people have the ability to do that sort of self-correction in some sense. There are artists that do that. I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but I do know of.
I think there's a lot less than you actually think there are. I mean, there's definitely some people that are at that next level, and you know, they have all the knowledge that they need in order to continue getting their sound out there. Mixmasters has a program you can join, and they have hundreds of lessons online. It's like a monthly subscription. And one of the opening emails they sent me is, you need a good team around you, all right? Like Roger Sanchez, he has a coach. He has a personal trainer. He has his manager. He has his booking agent.
Yeah.
And then you have your record label team. Like you can't do this stuff by yourself. And if you think that you can, then great. Prove me wrong. But I'm going to tell you that even the pros that have been doing this their entire life, and they are much older than I am, the way they're finding success is by having a complete balanced team to build each other up.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know a lot about that too as well, because you help run Envied Records.
Yeah, I'm the label manager on Envy Records. Like, we build each other up as a team. Like, we have our buddy Craig that does all the artwork. We have Corey, who's the owner, that's constantly organizing events or festival takeovers. Even as a producer, you have to have a strong network of just friends that you can send your music to that are producers and non-producers. So that way your producer friends can give you mix sound advice.
Yeah.
And like, so for me personally, I work with Ernesto in his Patreon program, and I'm very active in his Broken English crew Discord, and he does a Wednesday night roast where anyone can submit a track. He'll give critical mixdown feedback to it or arrangement feedback. I mean, he's literally taking notes while he's listening to the track and then gives it to you at the end. And he keeps it fun and interesting by, like, if you're not checking your tracks in mono, and when he hits the mono button, it collapses down, it sounds flat and doesn't sound well balanced. You know, he's like, all right, everyone toss the mono monkey emoji in the chat, and we're going to take a shot of tequila right now because poor little Hot Pot didn't check his mix in mono before he submitted it on the roast.
Oh no.
Which is like my biggest fear every time. And producers out there, if you're not checking your mix in mono, it's the single biggest thing you have to do, because almost all club systems are mono, and you can have this crazy wide synth and crazy wide ping pong percussion going on, but if you hit that mono button and it doesn't collapse and to be balanced in mono, your track's not going to sound good in the club. And you know, that's
a very common thing with a lot of up and coming producers that don't realize that.
Yeah, it's all about just having good dry samples to work with. And then, you know, I'm learning more about this all the time. When I look at my team, like, although like I pay to be on a Patreon with Ernesto, like I consider him part of my team, because I'll sit down with him once a month, and same thing, I send him my Ableton project file. He'll open it up, and I'll be like, all right, I think this idea, like with Tequila Time, he did that. I was like, I think this idea is there. He's like, well, your kick drum and your bass line are hitting at the exact same frequency, so it's making it kind of stale and monotonous. Let's try like shaping some breath into this. And then all of a sudden he's like, and actually let's pitch the bass line up like 3 semitones. And then all of a sudden it's just got all this life and bounce to it.
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly. exactly. It's great. I mean, you have to have that honest truth, because if you have people that are always behind you and patting you on the back and you're like, yeah, this is awesome, you're never going to learn anything.
That's stage one of being a producer, is like you can like export some sounds that you made and your friends are like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then stage two is you realize that your tracks aren't as awesome as your friends were making them sound.
Right.
And then it like eats into your mental headspace, because now you realize, you know, we all get into this because we think, or we do have a good ear for music. And so you hit a point as a producer where you realize that the sounds that I'm creating aren't as good as the sounds that I want them to be. Then you just have to keep working through those next plateaus and leveling up your game, so that way you can make the sounds that you want.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I think only in the last month is now I'm at the point where I think I have my sound dialed into where I want it.
That's awesome. That's really good.
I love all my old releases and I still play them out a bunch, but like, you know, I can sit there and think about tiny little things that I wish I changed, but
yeah, pick it apart like that.
But right now, you know, Ernesto's been a big help. I did some lessons with West End over quarantine. I did a lesson with Codes, and, you know, adding in all these things together, now I'm finally confident with my sound. That's why I'm cranking out so much music.
That's awesome.
I used to try to make like one song a month, but it was really like one finished song every like 3 months. And now I'm just in overdrive. But when the inspiration's flowing, you just got to keep moving. An object that stays in motion will stay in motion. That's Isaac Newton. That's just laws of the universe. That's not even towards music, but you know,
but music is physics. You're changing the air around you. You're pushing the air around you. I love this technical talk, but I kind of want to go a little bit further back.
Let's get
here.
it.
You know what I mean? I want to know what came first. You know, was it your DJing and producing, and was it like, what was that journey like when you first started doing all that?
Fabric Live 39, Rusco and Caspo changed my life.
Okay.
Got me into, that's when I was like, I got into production before I got into DJing. I was going out to a bunch of shows and I was like, all right, well, I'm kind of a weird antisocial person. It'd be cool if I was the DJ and then I could play this music that I like, and also no one can talk to me for an hour. Perfect. That's my introvert dream. So yeah, and then I picked up DJing, and it's just, you know, I've been doing this for, I don't know, I've been producing for 12, 13 years, but only probably like 4 years seriously. And then I've been DJing for 12.
Talking a little bit more about DJing. When you are opening up for an artist, do you really kind of like tailor your DJing to kind of complement them, or do you kind of just stick to your guns and do your particular sound that you usually go for?
When I'm opening for someone, I definitely try to bring the vibe there. You know, that's not my moment to be in the spotlight.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of people sometimes will disagree with that, but you know, if I'm like, you know, I opened up for Walker and Royce and Omnom at Royale a month ago or so, and so, you know, my job from 10 to 11:30 is not to be a headliner and play bangers. Okay,
Yeah.
my journey. Like my mindset going into that set is like, all right, from like 10 to 10:30, I'm playing some weird minimal stuff, and then I'm gonna try to pick up the BPM and get to like a tech house, Dirty Bird groove style, you know, splash in a couple of my own productions, and then you want to be bringing up the BPM throughout the night. If you just walked in there and the volume was at full max loudness and you're just slamming it at 126, 127, like, it's going to get stale real easy over the night. So,
yeah.
Common thing I always do is I always make sure, like, the last couple tracks before someone, like a headliner's going on after me, I bring the vibe back down. Like, you can, it's a roller coaster, you know? I can bring the vibe up for like 15 minutes and like have it like as if I was playing a headlining set. But I got to make sure that I carry it back down and like bring the vibe down, so that way when the headliner goes on, it's more impactful, and that way as an audience member, you can feel that on the dance floor.
Yeah. No, that's a great way of approaching it, because a lot of people, I've seen some openers that really just don't know what they're doing. It's
well, to their defense, it's much harder to play an opening set than a headlining set.
Yeah.
Like if I play out of state or play a festival, I can do whatever I want. I'm the headliner. I can slam bangers all day long. Playing an opening set I stress out more about that sometimes, and I think I put in more detail into my opening sets. So
a lot of people forget about that. I feel like, an opening set, it may seem, you're first walking into the club and you're hearing the music and the vibe, and it's kind of in the background. You know what I mean? Because you're getting comfortable with the scene. When I used to open up over at Rise for a lot of the second Saturday parties that Daniel and I used to play over there, we, each of us we have our sort of different styles that we like to kind of go for, but we also know that the whole thing is bringing people on this journey.
Yep.
So
definitely. Rise is where I really became a good house DJ, I think. Mike Swells and Damien would book me to play the lounge every couple of months, 3-hour set. It'd be like from 1 to 4 a.m. or 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. And it's just the lounge. It's like people are coming in and out of there so quickly, but it really taught me how to, when people come in, pick up the energy and keep them going.
Yeah.
And it becomes a game of like, how long can I keep them here in the lounge before they go see the actual headliner upstairs?
Right.
So, I miss those days. Those are a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Me too. That was such a unique time and place for dance music in New England.
Oh, definitely.
It's
we don't have an after-hour spot anymore, so
no, exactly, and
at least not a legal one. And I'm not going to say where the hidden ones are.
No, same here. I'd love to keep that for that here, man. Well, dude, I just want to say thank you so much for coming up on here. Before we close out here, like, what do you have going on? Coming up in the future, like what in terms of DJing events and music releases? What's on your radar?
One solid thing, I have a My Techno Weighs a Ton EP coming out later this year.
Yeah.
Date to be announced. I have a big collaboration with Baby Weight on her EP on My Techno Weighs a Ton that's coming out in a couple months. Still don't know the final date on that. Just cranking out more music. I'm shopping demos like it's my job.
Damn.
So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, dude.
But other than that, anyone that listens to this, go buy a copy of Tequila Time on Beatport. Let's keep it in the charts going. Hopefully we get a #1 in Bass House singles tomorrow.
That'd be badass, dude.
If not tomorrow, the next day. If not then, I don't know if it'll happen, but as long as it stays in the top 10 for a while, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, just keep pushing it, keep working it.
Yeah.
Like you said, if it doesn't make it, then work on another
That's
song,
fine.
and we'll see how things go from there.
It's gone much further than I thought it would go.
No, that's exactly what I was saying in the last interview.
Yep.
You never expect something, something that you put out like out in the world. You just do it. You never have the You never have the idea of like, this is going to be a hit.
Oh, at the end of the day, my go-to phrase is I make music for myself, and if other people like it, that's an added bonus. But I make the music for me, honestly. It might be a selfish thing to say, but I'm like,
hey, what the hell?
I'm making it for me, and that's my mindset was at the time, and like I can like listen to old songs I made and feel exactly how I felt in that moment. And when other people like it, I'm just like, yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
My music doesn't suck.
Right. That's so great. Well, thanks again, Billy, for coming up in here, aka Hot Pot. Really appreciate it, man. Good luck to you for everything coming up in the future.
Awesome, Jonathan. Thank you for having me.
All right, no problem, man. Cheers.
Cheers.